when you see it, of our illustrators today. And we'll start with Tani Kunitaki. And Benton Jew. And Warren Drummond. Oh, you can tell he's done this before.
A little bit.
A little bit. I'm Tim Burgard, and like you, I've mostly just watched these films. I'm also an illustrator and motion pictures, and you'll see some of my work too. But briefly, you'll see a trading card done by the Topps company for their, what was it, Lost Galaxy series, where we were asked to do different iterations of the characters, and that was before Lucas got really tight-assed about how they wanted the characters done. So why don't we start the slideshow? Did we get the lights? Okay, we have the lights. All right. Hello. Lights, please. You're making the sign language girl very nervous now. Hello. Cha 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 cha. They told me not to go to the haunted house on midnight. Honest to God, get to the light, somebody. All right, anybody got their flashlight app on their phone ready? Yeah, thank you. Once upon a time in a darkened. All right, here we go.
There we go.
Okay, we don't need to see you. All right, before we get started, I'm gonna, well, we have 15 minutes left. There's a mic right up there, and we're gonna ask you if you have any questions that we haven't hit on, or you just wanna babble incoherently, come up to the mic and we'll try and get to as many questions as we can, okay? Guys, let's introduce ourselves. I know you've seen the art, you've seen the men. I'm going to we're gonna go one at a time and have them tell you how they got started in the business. And then from there, we can get on to the Star Wars stuff, okay? Tani, how did you get in the business?
Progress with Jurassic Park and all the stuff and the digital stuff, and felt like we could do a lot more with than we did in the first prequel, or sequel. So, you know, I got the call up, and so I was normally working at Island, just doing commercials and the films, usually on the visual effects end. And they said, well, come to the ranch, you know, about 45 minutes away, and working there. I was working there for about a year, storyboarding tons of stuff. I think what I'm most famous for is storyboarding the sequence for with Darth Maul and the Jedi's. I tried to bring more of a Hong Kong film fight aesthetic to it, as before it was more like a samurai thing. And so a lot of the reference that they had in the office of Hong Kong movie stuff is like from my own collection, or from me going to Chinatown and using my video, you know, card or whatever to collect new examples of exciting, fast-paced fighting scenes. And so, you know, that was kind of a fun thing for me to do.
And you know, it occurred to me earlier that you might have, your Star Wars film might have been more dependent on computer-generated images than Tani's, because they tried to do a bunch of stuff practical on the last two Star Wars films. Would you say that's probably true.
Well, I mean, it was a strange thing with the Phantom Menace is that they definitely wanted, to incorporate more digital effects in it, but George also wanted to keep the budget to a certain level, which was, he wanted to keep the budget fairly low, so there was this kind of weird balancing act that we had to kind of go through. So we would go through we went through several versions of the boards, and a lot of it was like the first pass we went through. I remember we had we finished the boards and they brought them back to us, and then we were kind of looking at them and coloring. Basically, they asked us to marker in. Well, these boards could be digital, and these could be matte paintings, and these could be practical. And so each, we would color the storyboards a different color for each kind of effect that would be, and that would be one way that the producers could look at it and budget it. And then it came back to us as, we're gonna have to cut this sequence out, and George is rewriting this and rewriting that. So it was kind of this long process to sort of like balance out what would be digital and what would be practical.
Yeah, because when you worked on the films, it were the most expensive independent films
it was
ever
not the
made,
same,
right?
Yeah. And digital was, was a lot harder to do. That it's not as common as it is now. So it was a bigger deal if you're, doing an all CG character like Jar Jar or whatever. That's a lot trickier back then than it is now.
Yeah, well, I mean, your background up to that point was doing visual effects shots from a lot of movies. We basically did some of the same movies. You took care of it at the other end. Like, did you work on Jumanji? And
I did. I did a bid for Jumanji where I did a lot of character sketches for that. But
we should talk, because I ended up doing a bunch of them too. It became a war between ILM and LA.
I find that actually with a lot of the shows, ILM has its own art department, and generally they tend to do boards after the LA company has done them, but then they will redo them more specifically, because usually there's certain needs that you have to do things a certain way in order for work to work. In those days, the way where the green screen is or whatever, or the blue screen at those times.
Right.
You have to compose them a certain way that makes it easier or whatever, or it looks better. So that happened a lot. I would actually get a lot of you guys as boards and say, well, redo this, but make it really specific this way, or we would trace a plate and then start with that background and then add the character later, like you did a lot of these boards like that for Jurassic.
Yeah, just like some of you probably know already, there's a division of labor in movies, almost the same as an auto factory, right? When you're working with the director and trying to lay down, the basic storyline, there's also all this stuff gets shipped out to the visual effects units. The cinematographer obviously takes control of a lot of this stuff. So sometimes if you're working in development, when you look at a film, it's hard to tell if you even did anything on it. Warren, how about your experience?
My experience.